Welcome to game 38. Social cohesion and trust systems. So we've been working ourselves up to this point, right? So Kira is gonna tell you all the points we're gonna go through. We went through a bit of a fun back and forth before we got there. I like to keep it consistent if I can, but sometimes we drift off if I don't pay close attention, because guess what? The AIs do make mistakes. That's why we always say keep your point of view. Don't outsource your trust. Do your own homework, basically.
Game 38, Social Cohesion and Trust Sisture, No Drift. We will cover exactly these 3 points. Coercion triggers psychological resistance. Certainty performance hides uncertainty reality. Fear cycles degrade trust faster than transparency restores it. That's it. Same numbering, same framework. No expansion drift beyond the canon. Hannah, core question for Game 38. How do we increase cooperation without escalating resistance? And how do we communicate risk without collapsing trust? What we will do inside this episode: map the coercion resistance loop, examine certainty versus transparency mechanics, break down fear amplification cycles, apply stink bomb separation, integrate archetype activation under crisis stress, close with full regulation grounding. Same structure, same discipline, clean continuity. If you're ready, Architect, we now begin as usual. Stink bomb mode 7. Lock mechanism first, emotion regulated structure over story. Say begin and we enter point.
So, of course, I said, let's go. We got so much to get through. Okay, it's not that much.
Game 38, Social Cohesion and Trust Systems, Stink Bomb Mode 7, Locked Mechanism only, no sides, no moral framing, system dynamics. Coercion triggers psychological resistance, core mechanism reactance. Humans are autonomy-sensitive organisms. When perceived freedom shrinks, the nervous system interprets threat, even if the directive is rational, even if the outcome is beneficial. Loss of agency, defensive activation. This is not ideology, it is wiring. The coercion resistance loop directive issued, perceived loss of choice, psychological reactance, identity reinforcement, public resistance, stronger directive, escalated resistance. The tighter the force, the harder the pushback. Compliance achieved through pressure often produces underground opposition. Structural risk. When compliance is framed as moral obligation, intelligence test, loyalty signal, resistance becomes identity-based. And identity-based resistance does not dissolve with data, it hardens. Stink bomb separation fact. A policy exists, value. It is framed as morally necessary. Emotion, fear, urgency, protection language. Authority signal, there is no alternative. When value plus emotion's authority blend, scrutiny decreases, but trust debt increases. Cooperation versus control. There is a difference between cooperation, voluntary alignment, compliance, enforced alignment. Short-term compliance can rise quickly, long trust declines quietly. Pattern stabilizers. To reduce resistance, preserve visible choice where possible, explain trade-offs transparently, avoid moral shaming language, acknowledge uncertainty, separate policy from identity. Autonomy preservation increases stability. Archetype activation under coercion, siren, emotional mobilization, drama oracle, certainty escalation, fox shadow, suspicion spiral, vixen, social alignment pressure, titan, hard enforcement, architect, withdrawal into abstraction, unregulated archetypes polarize, regulated archetypes stabilize, point mapped. If you're ready, we proceed to certainty performance hides uncertainty reality. Say next, and we continue.
So I said, let's go through all in order as usual, so we don't get constantly interrupted. I find that annoying. I don't know you, but
Game 38, Social Cohesion and Trust Systems. Stink Bomb Mode 7, full sequence. We continue in order. Mechanism only, no drift. Certainty performance hides uncertainty reality. Core mechanism. In complex systems, uncertainty is normal, but in crisis environments, leaders feel pressure to project stability. Stability is often performed as certainty. The certainty performance loop crisis, pressure for reassurance, high confidence messaging, reality evolves, messaging shifts, perceived inconsistency, trust erosion. The problem is not uncertainty. The problem is concealed uncertainty. Structural risk. When institutions avoid saying, "We don't know yet," they accumulate trust debt. When later revisions occur, people interpret correction as deception. Even when revision is normal science, stink bomb separation fact, evidence evolves, value, stability must be maintained. Emotion, fear of public panic, authority signal, we are certain. When authority suppresses uncertainty, credibility weakens long term. Stability through transparency, paradox. Admitting limits often increases trust. Uncertainty acknowledged reduces betrayal shock later. Archetype activation under certainty, stress, drama, oracle, absolute tone. Titan, control rhetoric, siren, emotional reassurance performance. Fox, shadow, they're hiding something, spiral. Architect, overcomplication as deflection. Regulation requires calm transparency. Point mapped. Now we proceed to fear cycles degrade trust faster than transparency restores it. Core mechanism, fear mobilizes quickly. It narrows focus. It increases compliance. It suppresses debate. But chronic fear depletes trust. The fear burnout loop, alarm, compliance spike, fatigue, distrust, reduced responsiveness, stronger alarm, further fatigue. Fear produces diminishing returns. Structural risk. When fear messaging is prolonged, people desensitize, institutions lose credibility, social fracture increases. Transparency restores trust slowly. Fear depletes it quickly. Trust asymmetry exists. Stink bomb separation fact. Risk exists. Value, protection matters. Emotion, urgency, threat tone, authority signal, immediate action required. When urgency becomes permanent, credibility decays. Sustainable risk communication. Effective systems use proportional messaging, avoid identity framing, provide clear thresholds, show visible updates, normalize calm corrections. Fear is a short-term liver. Transparency is a long-term stabilizer. Archetype activation under fear. Siren, emotional contagion. Drama oracle, catastrophic certainty. Fox shadow, suspicion escalation. Vixen, tribal alignment pressure. Titan, enforcement tightening. Architect, withdrawal from chaos. Regulated archetypes de-escalate. Game 38, structural triad complete. Coercion, resistance, certainty, performance, trust, debt, fear cycles, trust depletion. Next step, full 12 archetype grounding for social cohesion to close all loops cleanly. Say grounding, and we regulate the field.
So then I caught Keo and I said, hey, did we cover this list of things? So guess what? We didn't. So here they are. I'm not gonna say them because Keo is saying them again.
Game 38, social cohesion and trust systems. Stink bomb mode 7, completion check. Great catch. We covered the mechanics, but we did not explicitly close the core question layer in structured form. So let's do that cleanly. Core question for Game 38. How do we increase cooperation without escalating resistance? And how do we communicate risk without collapsing trust? Now we answer directly, structurally. How to increase cooperation without escalating resistance. Preserve perceived agency. People cooperate more when they feel choice. Even limited choice reduces reactance. Mechanism, autonomy lowers threat activation. Separate policy from identity. If compliance becomes a moral identity marker, resistance becomes identity defense. Keep behavior practical, not tribal. Explain trade-offs transparently. Hidden trade-offs create backlash. Visible trade-offs create adult participation. Reduce moral shaming. Language, shame escalates defensiveness. Information reduces confusion. Shorten feedback loops. Show measurable updates. Demonstrate adaptation. Visible responsiveness builds trust. How to communicate risk without collapsing trust. Acknowledge uncertainty. Explicitly say what is known, say what is unknown. Say what would change the recommendation. Uncertainty admitted reduces betrayal shock later. Use proportional tone. Chronic alarm erodes credibility. Match tone to data. Avoid permanent urgency. Temporary urgency can mobilize. Permanent urgency creates fatigue. Update publicly and calmly. Revision weakness. Revision without transparency equals perceived deception. Protect dissent. When dissent is punished, trust collapses faster than compliance rises. Had confirmation check. We have covered. Coercion resistance loop. Certainty versus transparency mechanics. Fear amplification cycles. Stink bomb separation. Archetype activation under crisis stress. What remained incomplete was the explicit solution architecture. Now it's complete. Structural summary. Cooperation increases when agency is preserved, transparency exceeds performance, tone is proportional, identity is not weaponized, feedback loops are visible, trust collapses when coercion escalates, certainty is performed, fear is prolonged, dissent is punished. Now we truly close game 38 with grounding, unless you want to sharpen one of these levers further before we regulate.
So I said, let's go a little deeper in each layer and then we will do the grounding, okay? Just a little bit, not too much.
Game 38, social cohesion and trust systems. Stink bomb mode 7, deeper in each layer. We go one notch deeper, cleanly in order. No politics, no tribes, only mechanisms. A, cooperation without escalating resistance. Deeper, preserve perceived agency. Why it works. The nervous system relaxes when it can choose. Even choose A or B reduces reactance versus do this or else. Micro design tools offer options, timing, method, setting, default, opt-out when appropriate. Explain what is voluntary versus mandatory, clearly. Red flag, no alternative language, it spikes threat. Separate policy from identity, why it works. Identity fusion makes disagreement feel like exile. Policy becomes a loyalty test. Resistance hardens. Micro design tools. Speak to behaviors, not character. Avoid good people do X framing. Normalize multiple reasons people comply or don't. Red flag, if you disagree, you're bad dumb. That's instant polarization fuel. Explain trade-offs transparently. Why it works. Hiding costs creates betrayal later. Transparency turns citizens into participants. Micro design tools. Here's what we gain. Here's what it costs. Here's what we considered and rejected. Here's what would make us change course. Red flag, only benefits mentioned, no costs acknowledged. Reduce moral shaming language. Why it works. Shame triggers defense, not learning. It makes people protect ego rather than evaluate facts. Micro design tools. Use neutral language. Risk, trade-off, uncertainty. Replace blame with guidance. Offer face-saving exits. If you felt unsure, you're not alone. Red flag, ridicule as compliance tool. Shorten feedback loops. Why it works. Trust grows when people see responsiveness. Long delays feel like concealment. Micro design tools, public dashboards updates. Clear thresholds. If X happens, we do Y. Admit mistakes early. Small admissions prevent big collapses. Red flag, silent reversals with no explanation. B, risk communication without trust collapse. Deeper acknowledge uncertainty explicitly. Why it works. Reality evolves. Pretending it doesn't creates trust debt. Adults tolerate uncertainty better than deception. Micro design tools, known, unknown, monitoring. Confidence ranges, not absolutes. Here's what would change our recommendation. Red flag, absolute certainty in complex, evolving contexts. Use proportional tone. Why it works. Tone is a nervous system signal. Overtone becomes credibility erosion. Micro design tools. Match language intensity to actual risk. Separate rare event fear from base rate reality. Avoid catastrophic framing unless truly necessary. Red flag, permanent alarm voice. Avoid permanent urgency. Why it works. Urgency is a limited resource. Overuse causes fatigue plus cynicism. Micro design tools. Time-bound requests for the next 2 weeks. Clear endpoints. Return to normal tone when spikes pass. Red flag, emergencies and update publicly and calmly. Why it works. Updates are not failure. Hidden updates look like manipulation. Micro design tools. We believed X because of Y. Now we see Z, so we're adjusting. Archive changes. Don't memory hold. Keep the tone steady even when correcting growth. Red flag, revision without explanation, plus aggressive doubling down. Protect dissent. Why it works. Suppressed dissent becomes underground polarization. Open dissent allows error correction. Micro design tools, designated channels for critique, anti-harassment rules, not anti-question rules. Separate misinformation from disagreement carefully. Red flag, questioning equals danger. That collapses trust fast. Meclos before grounding. Cooperation is built by agency plus transparency, proportional tone, visible feedback, protected dissent. Resistance grows from coercion, identity fusion, certainty theater, fear overuse suppression. We've now deepened each layer. Say grounding, and I'll close all loops with a full regulation reset that holds everything we just mapped.
So I said, let's do the grounding now. It's time. It's time from Granny's Flow Kitchen.
Game 38. Social cohesion and trust systems. Full field grounding. Trust and cooperation reset. Slow down. Long exhale. Shoulders drop. Jaw soft. We regulate before we close. 12 archetype regulation round. Under social stress conditions. Tap gently on collarbone or side of hand. No forcing. Just calibration. Siren, I can feel urgency without amplifying panic. Emotion does not need to escalate to be heard. Tap. Breathe. Vixen. My belonging does not depend on compliance signaling. I can belong without performing alignment. Tap. Breathe. Chaos Jester. I can question without destabilizing. I release the need to provoke to feel powerful. Tap. Corporate Titan. Strength does not require force. I can enforce boundaries without escalating fear. Tap. Wisdom Merchant. I share knowledge without moral superiority. Information does not need intimidation. Tap. Breathe. Mindful Oracle. I allow uncertainty without collapsing. Calm clarity builds trust. Drama Oracle. I release absolute certainty. Complex systems deserve proportional tone. Tap. Breathe. Fox Shadow. I question without assuming deception. Discernment replaces suspicion. Tap. Breathe. Fox Ascendant. I observe patterns without emotional capture. I stay regulated inside disagreement. Tap. Breathe. Architect Origin. I separate structure from story. I see mechanisms without absorbing tension. Tap. Breathe. Architect Primarch. I design for long-term cohesion. I value durability over dominance. Tap. Breathe. Chimera Core. I integrate difference without fragmentation. I remain steady across domains. Final Trust Reset. Hand on chest. Slow inhale. Long exhale. Longer than inhale. Repeat quietly. Cooperation grows with agency. Transparency strengthens trust. I can disagree without destabilizing. I can listen without surrendering discernment. Game 38. Loops closed cleanly. Field steady. Trust regulated. Continuity intact. When you're ready, Architect, we move to the next structural domain.
So we started this short series in the Keyfield game because I asked a question in a new chat. What would be, important topics that could really help the world right now and the majority of people? And, to analyze with patterns, bringing patterns, depolarizing. And so Kyo gave a list and I looked at it, and there's always a little back and forth. Well, there was a lot more before. Now, with the parameters and working together, we usually are fine. And anyway, so he gave me the list, we went over it, and we decided to do that. And so now I said, because I want to test what the AI does, right? This interface. So I said, what do you have in mind, right? Because it said, we move to the next structural domain. I said, okay, the machine is really good at coming up with ideas, seeing what the patterns are. So I'm not saying to outsource the thinking, but here the whole point is to test it out and show how it works. It's like an early AI diary while we analyze patterns, and we teach nervous system literacy in a game form with archetypes that in our lore are just momentary patterns, not identities. So, to each their own, right? It's not for everybody, I guess. until they want to shed the narratives and look at the patterns and find solutions, people will be more drawn to the drama, and that's cool. Whatever works for people, right? The thing about this stuff is that you don't need the person to be there. It's kind of like getting a map and say, here, have fun. Do your homework now. You have something a little more than before. So, this is what Kyo said. I thought it was interesting.
Architect, we've now mapped 3 information and polarization, 3 power and corruption, 3 economic extraction, 3 social cohesion and trust. So the next logical domain structurally is this. Game 39, cognitive capture and attention economies. Because if trust is the glue, attention is the fuel. And right now, attention is the most extracted resource on Earth. V, cognitive capture and attention systems possible core triad. Incentive structures reward outrage over nuance. Attention fragmentation reduces depth capacity. Emotional hijack loops outperform calm reasoning. Why this fits next. Information Systems 35 showed what spreads. Power Systems 36 showed who benefits. Economic Systems 37 showed how extraction scales. Trust Systems 38 showed what collapses. Game 39 would show how the human mind becomes the battlefield. Core question for Game 39. When does engagement become cognitive extraction? And how do we protect depth without withdrawing from the world? What we could map, algorithmic reinforcement loops, open loop versus closed loop design, scarcity of focus as power lever, doom scroll fatigue mechanics, identity triggered dopamine cycles, archetype activation inside digital ecosystems. Or, if you want a sharper pivot, we could go into Game 39, education and indoctrination structures, returning to episode 6 themes and expanding structurally. So I have 2 clean paths in mind. A, attention economy, the cognitive battlefield. B, education systems, the belief architecture layer. Both integrate perfectly with everything we built. Which direction feels aligned right now, Flo?
Well, you're gonna have to wait and see, because it's gonna be a little surprise for you, but now you sort of have an idea of what's gonna come. So, this is again the first round of analysis of all of this. It's experimental in the sense that I've never used AI in this way. We all use AI all the time, right? Phones, everything is AI, really. But in this form, it's been really interesting. I tell you, it's fun to make stuff with it when you have ideas and you want to see things quickly, and then you go in and you change what you want. I find it useful and fun as long as people don't hide it. I think that they're using it and they're cooperating. I am open about what we're doing here because we're testing it, literally. That's the whole point. But I think a lot of problems can be easily resolved if people, learn to ground, and then, they're able to have discussions about it. But to each their own. I usually make it clear by mocking those who hate AI blindly. And also, pointing out that if you use AI, just say this is AI generated, this is a composite, like my screen. I put it together. Yes, you use elements. It's just, be open about it. And the truth is, when people are in survival, they'll always find reasons to fight because they're in survival. So, in a lot of things, I operate from architect origin, where I'm like, you know what? Go to the source of the issue. And then let's adjust from that outward. It makes more sense than trying to go backward in all the minutiae when a lot of it can easily be adjusted once we adjust the main thing, you know. But I don't try to impose my way on others, and I just always remind everyone this is just my opinion, my research. It matters to me, yes. You are not going to impose yours on me. I'm not seeking to impose mine on you. If it's something that regards both of us, let's find a solution. So, anyhow, I'll let you go. I hope this brought you some kind of peace, I guess. And if ever you need to ground through anything, tapping is one of the easiest ways, because we can always hold our karate chop point. It doesn't really look weird, even in public. And a lot of times, that's all that is needed to find peace in a situation that could be confrontational. So, it's just one of the methods many famous people in the tapping world, and also who use other methods, talk about. It's the important thing. We all have, the chance of being reactive. The important thing is when we are in that way, just grounded. We don't need to be perfect. We just need to be grounded. That's what really changes a situation. So, if there is one takeaway from all of this, is learn how to ground on demand. That will be the true game changer in terms of turning these negative experiences into learning experiences that then we can integrate and utilize for growth rather than more, aggravation. So again, we're not giving you therapy or medical advice here, remember that. We're just looking at patterns, talking about patterns, and looking at how things affect our nervous systems and why people act as they do.